Hey guys, Stealth here. In this video I'm playing as South Korea on a 10v10 tactical low point income game. Now first credit where credit's due. This is a strategy or tactic, if you will, that I copied from someone else. I observed that when I was in a game with that person, I'm not sure who it was, I was in a game with him and he played very well. He was using a South Korea deck on this tactical situation. I was using a support deck that time, but he had a lot more points. He was going over to this area, and this forested area is usually pretty heavily contested because it more or less dominates the rest of the map. If you can park some ATGMs in this forest and some Recon, some AA infantry, you got most of the area under your control. And of course this is the centerpiece of it all. This small block of 3 blocks of buildings with these as secondary targets. So if you can capture those, you got a lot of terrain to go for. So I'm going to switch it over to my view. Let's say here, Stealth 17. I was on TeamSpeak with Ray Vengeance and Carlos 360. So I had 2 allies who I was coordinating with. Carlos was doing support and Ray Vengeance was mostly using artillery. So he could already positions that I could mark out for him. Now my setup consists of command infantry, so that later on I can put the command infantry into this side of the forest, still capturing India but not being at risk while being over here. I got some KAFV 40/50, so the grenade launcher carrier with standard infantry in it. I got mostly a force of Haebyungs, Haebyung 90s to be precise. Because those are very good at fighting at close range, and their launcher, their anti-tank weapon, just kills pretty much anything that they can come up against. So as you can see, it's the usual quick, or more or less quick grab of terrain, trying to get the first couple of kills in, trying to get the first bit of terrain captured. Nothing special here, so let's skip it up a little. Traffic is horrible today on the bridge. There we go. Okay, so my forces consists of one group of KAFV 4050s over here with Sochung Sus, another group over here, one group of Mistrals a bit forward, the second group of Mistrals is trying to catch up to the right side. I got one large group of 30 Haebyung 90s which are armed with the PZF-3, so they are very capable of taking down any vehicle that they come up against. I got one K1 over here. The other one was detracked, so momentarily stopped. He's trying to catch up now. I got one 263 here, sorry, one 163 here and one over there. But I should be moving those over to the left side soon. So this is for the low points that I had, which was about, I think, 300, maybe 450. It was pretty much the best setup that I could think of. And immediately we're engaged with the enemy. Now, by the way, before I forget to mention it, I did not have Recon in here, and that was intentional. If you're fighting at this close range, Recon is going to spot the enemy maybe at a range 5 meters more than your regular forces will. Because they're just going to stumble onto the enemy about as much as your basic infantry is my experience. So in a situation like this, it doesn't really matter if you have Recon in here, Recon vehicles, Recon infantry, because everyone is just going to be seeing the same thing. Now, clearly I'm not alone in this forest, but I have managed to capture this building. We got some BTR 60s and 70s which are trying to push into this zone. But I'm not alone here. The Villis with assault engineers, assault pioneers and commandos is also on the scene. And I'm very happy that he was here, because my Haebyungs took quite some hits. And I was going to bring in my reinforcements, so supply units mostly, and try and get these guys healed up. Because you're going to be seeing these guys a lot in this gameplay. Okay, normally, if you see a situation like this, where you got 30 Spetsnaz coming at you, you run away. The difference is that the KAV 4050 is heavily armored. 2 frontal armor, 2 side, 2 back, 1 top. and they can only fire an HE weapon. So in this case I was perfectly happy having my KAFV 4050 holding here to just use the suppression of the grenade launcher to go after the Spetsnaz. Unfortunately, the VDV took him out, and I was not expecting that. Oh, sorry, actually, there was the impact from the Spetsnaz, which I cut in half, this group. There were, what, 27 just 20 seconds ago, and now it's just 10 guys. Also, the Sochong-Sus are engaging, and you could argue that I should have pulled my Mistrals away at this point. Moved my 163s up into position. They're too close together right now. I should space those out a bit more. And with that, I still don't have a solid anti-air defense. But I can defend against most things. I can at least stun them, and maybe my Mistral over here can take them out. So, Villis is again coming to my rescue with these transports with a minigun on top of it. And I was very happy about that, because my Sochong-Sus here were getting pretty battered. These guys had also taken some hits, and I was pushing it with my K1. But I was not confident about that push, because the only thing that this thing could do is fire its main gun, machine guns, and hope that the VDV didn't really kill it. So, did bring in a recon, mostly to start scouting this area, because this is where the enemy, my allies did not have a lot of recon. This is, by the way, again Villis. So if I was able to deploy a recon over here, I could spot for his Erics and maybe his Abrams as well. Now this is something I wanted to highlight in this replay. These VDVs have a very, very dangerous weapon. They have a very dangerous anti-tank weapon. The K1 has just enough armor and strength to survive. So I managed to make it out alive, even though it's on only one block of health. And now I can retreat this tank. It's done some damage, and now I can repair it. Yes, it might not be the most effective use of armor, especially since tanks or most tanks are not really meant for fighting inside a forest like this. But I've seen the K1 do it quite successfully. So, for some reason my guys are getting smoked. I'm thinking that is because my ally, or the enemy, was trying to retreat their forces. Let's see. Yeah, they did manage to pull some of these VDVs out. And I managed to score another chopper kill. And I was quite happy by the amount of points I was getting, actually. 335, and I haven't really lost any units yet. Now I'm trying to set up a constant supply chain of new units, so that I always have a couple of fresh units of infantry. And again, Haebyung 90s are coming in to assist these assault pioneers who have no chance against the BMD-3. And there you go, they take them out for 30 points. And over here on the other side, the Challenger Marksman helps me out with taking out this Mi-24D. Now that's usually not a good sign, because that is usually the transport for some high-end infantry, like Spetsnaz. So I was not looking forward to meeting another group of Spetsnaz in here. Some random arty shelling, or more or less random arty shelling on my positions. This K1 has taken a hit or two, but it's not dead yet. The KAV 4050 and the KM 9000 or 900 are in worse shape. And something just cut through my 4050 in one go. And they are now cutting through my Haebyung 90s, and BMD-3s can do that with their autocannons. My Recon infantry manages to take out one of those transports. Fires again, takes out the other. That is because these guys are elite. In a low point tactical deck, I go for the highest points of elite veterancy, so that my units are most effective. But something this overwhelming is something that they cannot handle. Now, one problem that I have encountered with the South Korean forces is that some of their units are not as autonomous as I would like. As you can see, these 163s only came through the main supply route, went into the forest and said, okay, we're out of fuel. And these things have an autonomy of 300, so this is something that you will need to keep an eye on when you're using the South Korean deck, because you don't want your units stuck like this. So bringing in some cargoes to make sure that I can do something about that. I was also marking targets every now and then. You're going to see that a bit later in the game. And when I do that, Ray can put some artillery targets onto it, and Carlos helps me out as well. So a large push, or large-ish. We got 90, or VDV 90s again, but they're going through those pretty quickly, because I've killed off quite a number of them already. Haebyung 90s are coming back, trying to catch these guys in the rear, while unfortunately these VDVs are too deep into the forest for my K1s to be effective. You can see that the Chinook that just departed here a couple of minutes ago was quite effective at repairing one of them. But they're still worried and not fully healthed. So again, 30 Spetsnaz, and this was really starting to be my cue to leave, because 15 or 20 line infantry versus 30 Spetsnaz is not a trade I'm willing to make. Haebyungs took out some VDV. Mistrals get taken out, unfortunately. I try to evac my trucks, but they get too far away from my troops and they got captured. So that was a bit of a stupid move there. But later on I get those recaptured, probably with this Recon. I got mortars here, very close, to make sure that I can use them at very short intervals. If I were to post them over there, the travel time of the shells would be a lot longer. If I put them over here, I can have pretty much instant effect of those mortars. The one thing you just gotta do is keep them moving about, so they're not gonna be counter-artied. Now, a Polish Seria took out one of my K1s, and the other one is trying to get retreated. And over here I got one or two groups of Sochung Sus versus a whole lot of Spetsnaz. And at this point I really needed some help. I also had these Recon infantry, which I just brought in with the KM900. But there was not a lot I could do about these guys. I was trying to get my mortars to fire at them, after relocating them, that is. This tank might have been effective, and so was the KM900. But in the end I believe someone else takes it out. Mortars take out one more group. That means there's still one or two more groups in this territory. Yep, there you go. Now they're also coming in from my flank. So they came over this hill because I was operating in this area and Jericho was operating over there. But in the middle there was pretty much nothing. Now I'm going to use these KM900s offensively, because they are not going to be an easy target for the Spetsnaz, since the Spetsnaz only have that HE weaponry. And they are thinning them out pretty quickly, while the Spetsnaz have probably run out of their RPO launcher, and they are doing virtually no damage to these transports. So don't underestimate the power of transports in a forest situation like this, where you have a lot of Spetsnaz to go about. At this point I might have taken out all of his Spetsnaz, and it might be that other players were now bringing in their Spetsnaz to back it up. I'm not entirely sure, but that is my estimate. Because you only get 7 Spetsnaz at Elite. Of course it depends a little bit on the kind of veterancy you use, but that's more or less my estimate. Got some Formosas over here. That is trouble, and I put a marker on it. Airstrike this, because someone else in the chat had said, okay guys, if you need airstrikes, let me know, just put a marker down. So I did. He responded with coming, which is very good. Now I know that I don't have to dedicate any forces of mine to counter this. I did fire at them with the mortars, which were there a minute ago, but I decided to pull them back because the enemy was getting way too close. And here comes the airstrike. One Nighthawk. Let's see. At this point I asked him, are they dead? He said, yeah, 2 dead. And he even put some marker down, dead. So this was excellent coordination. I was not on TeamSpeak with him, he was just a regular teammate. And by doing this, I know exactly that I do not need to either go scouting this area, dedicate any resources to it, a bomber, artillery, whatever. I didn't need to do any of that just because he mentioned, okay, he's dead. So this is something that I wanted to highlight. If you have an ally who requests a target or requests a strike on a target, keep an eye on that target and tell the partner if it's dead or not. Because if you know that it's dead, that way you're going to be much more effective. Because it also freed up my attention. I didn't have to micromanage this area anymore. I'm bringing in some reinforcements. I got another group of Haebyungs. I got some Sochung Sus over here with a KAFV 4050. Another 4050 over here with more infantry. And I'm trying to get some more Mistrals in here, because I have only one Mistral battery, or infantry group. And while they're doing an excellent job taking down these Mi-24s, probably with more Spetsnaz. No, this is Recon infantry actually. Yeah, Spetsnaz BMF sniper teams. They only have so much that they can do. And they're not that fast, they're only 15 kph, so they could have already this position and killed my Mistrals. So I needed more Mistrals in here. Now they're just doing some random shelling of this town, but by now I was long gone and had retreated my forces to either here or pushed them up to into his part of the forest. Now I'm saying his, but of course it's not specifically this guy's forest, it's my forest of course. No, seriously, multiple people can be operating in the same forest, you just gotta coordinate a bit better. But you can see that I'm constantly moving forward and backward, trying to scout the enemy, trying to come through this forest. Also doing some resupplies with my cargoes, getting my Haebyungs back up to full strength. I could have pushed up this Haebyung group, but apparently I was micromanaging something else. And these cargoes go out of fuel way too fast, so I gotta wait for my Chinook to come back. Now the reason I picked for KAFV, or the reason I picked KAFV 4050s as the infantry transport is this grenade launcher. This entire deck was created with one thought, and that's go after forests, do forest fighting. So that's exactly what this deck was going to do, and that's exactly what it did with the Haebyung 90s, with the grenade launchers on these vehicles. Later on in the game I'm going to bring in some Hellcats, some M18s, and those are going to be surprisingly effective for only 10 points. And keep in mind, those are more expensive than my infantry, which is 30 points. But again, I run into a group of 40 VDVs and a couple of Spetsnaz. I did some friendly fire here, killed off one of my own groups of Haebyungs, unfortunately. And I was pushing this guy into position to try and deal with the VDVs, but then I thought, no, you know what, that's not a good idea. So I retreated them a little. Now, out of my own curiosity, I want to know what they had on that side. They had some VDVs, a Tungushka. That's the expensive variety, by the way, that's the 100-pointer. Recon, Concours, PMPT. Their AA on this side was pretty light, but they did have a book over there. And I was surprisingly close to their lines over here, and they had nothing to stop it. The other guy operating here is GK Revolution, and we got Guan over here. So the one I'm fighting is Slavic Havoc. He did 345 points, and by now I'm at 941. So I killed off a lot of his forces already. If it was only his forces, that is. I requested another airstrike here at the VDVs, and the only thing that was responding was my own mortars. So unfortunately no one else had any resources available to go after it. I should have noted this. Over here my Chinook has returned to resupply my cargo, so that my cargoes can then bring the supplies to these guys a bit safer than the Chinook can, because I don't know either how well their AA is over here, or if that VDV can reach the Chinook, and it probably can if I park the Chinook over there. Someone was getting a bit angry with this area. Arty the fuck out of this. Let's push it up a little. My Recon infantry is trying to push up through the forest just to see if I can get an eye on that ATGM. I did do some mortar fire on it, and the enemy decided to do a bombing run here because there might be infantry, and accepted the fact that I was nowhere near. So I encountered the VDVs trying to pull back to that side, immediately turn around and run the hell away. Because I have no interest in staying near this area if there's 14 VDVs hanging around. Now over on the water, they had a Sovremeni, which was getting constantly pursued by, I believe it was Carlos. Let's see, where are those? Yeah, Carlos had an ATACMS. One over there, one over there. Ray had an ATACMS and some Paladin batteries. One by Ray and one by Carlos. So they were both working on this Sovremeni, trying to get it down. Because this, of course, is a 500 point prize. By now the difference was 500 points, so we were still looking for some more income. And on my side, in the meanwhile, my forces were trying, or their forces were trying to Buratino my own. Immediately I respond with my mortars, put down an attack marker, and 2 other people have also noted that there is a target there. Unfortunately the Buratino is pretty quick. It managed to make it out. So it managed to make it out. And it retreated to their side. Well, everything is hitting this area, but we're trying to shoot at this area, but nothing's hitting it. Getting my Recon infantry to do a little recon exploration here. I want to see if there is something out there, because I think that the ATGM that was there earlier is not dead yet. And looking at my forces, you're going to see that I have a decent mix, but my AA is still a bit light. I only have a 163 over here, 1 group of Mistrals, and that's it. The second group of 10 Mistrals is now being brought in. But before those guys actually get to the front line, we're going to have to wait a bit for them, because they're not that fast. I'm now engaging Commandosis, and I'm originally engaging them only with Haebyungs, but now converging with KAFV 4050s, a second group of Haebyungs and KM 900s. And that's another 40 points gained. And by now I was actually leading in my team by points, which is something that does not happen that much to me. IL-102 tries to do a bombing run, and I take it out using the Mistrals. Again, they did a complete blind bombing run because there was nothing in there. There had been something in there, but that was quite a while ago. My Recon infantry took out a vehicle, and now it's trying to retreat to the supplies to make sure that it can get some reinforcements. And over here, this is a pretty tricky bit of territory, because my grenade launchers had to skirt around this area. You can see that it is such a hilly area over here that if you're on this side, you cannot shoot down at them. You gotta completely go around the hill, and then you can engage the infantry. So if you're on this side of the map, abuse this little position, abuse this hillside. If you're on this side, keep in mind that this is a sloping area, and that this sloping area will sometimes make it hard for your forces to engage the enemy. Let's see, here I am. So by now I have quite a number of forces in this forest. Most of them though are slightly wounded. I got my Haebyungs which are wounded, my Recon infantry is coming back. These Haebyungs have taken a beating. I believe my KAV 4050 is almost out of fuel. So I'm trying to bring in another group of Recon infantry, and I want to have a look at whatever is out here, or see if I can find anything in this forest or urban area. My Chinook made it back, and I brought in another one. So this one's going to go back to the fob for resupplies, and this one is going to be resupplying both my cargoes and the other forces, so that if I have to pull this thing out, I still got my cargoes and I can still resupply my other units. Let's skip ahead to some more interesting parts. Sovereign is still not dead, unfortunately. Oh, putting it on play might help. But the Sovereign has taken a huge beating and is only down to 3 blocks of hit points. Now this was a bit unfortunate. My Recon infantry was moving to the edge of the town, and by doing that I captured a Recon, or a resupply truck. Over here my Haebyungs are setting up an ambush position, and of course this is way too far away from my lines, because there is nothing I can do against airstrikes. And that is exactly what the enemy is going to show me. Having a tank over here would have been much more effective and much more safe than just pushing some Haebyungs through. Some sappery comes out of that, and the sappery gets taken care of by the Haebyungs, who are a veteran, who still have a lot of ammo and a lot of guys in their platoon. There goes another helicopter, thanks to my Mistral battery, or Mistral infantry. I have some more reinforcements over here, some KM900, so that's more Haebyung 90s. And I should have pushed those up a bit sooner. But now the area over here was solidly under my control. Now I was a bit hesitant to go into this area. Over here the Buratino had returned, except that this time I spotted it before it started firing. So I immediately put down an attack marker. I do not want to get my forces fired at. And over here I got a KA-52 coming in, who instantly takes a hit from the Mistrals, tries to return fire, but fails, and I take down a 130 point chopper. So that was quite the waste. Buratino's taking a lot of fire, but of course this is a pretty heavily armored target. 10 on the front, 5 side, 2 back, 2 top. And that means that it will not die easily to artillery unless you fire AT-ACMS at it. And that's exactly what, I'm not sure who got the kill, Ray or Carlos, but either of you guys, thanks for that kill, because that probably saved a lot of my forces over here. I'm trying to get my cargoes through this forest. Oh, my opponent in this area surrendered. I'm trying to push my cargoes through this forest, but those things already have a terrible off-road speed, 50 kph. And then going through a forest is even slower, so these things are probably slower than infantry at this point. And I was bringing them up to just resupply some of my units over here. And this is where things go horribly wrong. This bomber drops 30 250 kilogram bombs and wipes out one of my KAFVs, almost, kills my AA, and severely wounds this Haebyung 90. So my AA again is starting to become a problem because I don't have enough. But I can see them landing over here with some more commandosis. So they were clearly aware of my presence here, and how could they not be? I just captured a supply truck. The Mistrals are trying to take down this Sokol, and I had turned off the weapons on my Recon infantry, but they were spotted anyway. And I was way too late with turning those back on, and now I'm getting constant airstrikes on my position, wiping out one group over there, one vehicle, and one group over here. So I got the Haebyungs and the Mistrals, which only have 2 missiles left. At this point I was pretty much through with all those airstrikes, so I called in more AA. And I had my Pip Hawk in position to make sure that the AA was going to be a bit more up to par and I could take down a bit more planes. But again, these things ran out of fuel pretty quickly. Their autonomy is 320, so slightly better than the 163s. And I was also asking Ray to push up with his pivats, so that he could aid me with the AA over here, because I was not looking forward to getting any more of my forces bombed. Meanwhile, I'm trying to put some pressure onto the enemy infantry in here with my mortars, but of course it's not going to do a lot. I'm not even sure they're still there. Well, apparently they are there, but yeah, it's not going to do a lot of damage. Skipping it up a little bit. My Recon infantry over here tells me exactly what's coming in from this side, but I don't have any eyes on this area. So this was quite a lack in my Recon, because since I didn't know what was coming at me, it was very hard to actually defend myself against it. I couldn't counter in time, and that's what caused me not to see all of those sapperies coming. So I couldn't really bring any of the good forces or any of the best forces to counter that to bear in time. I do have some AA coming up, but they're gonna take their sweet time getting there. My PIV took out a plane for 70 points. Might have been aided by the Mistrals, but I think they're returning. And this is also something that you don't want to encounter in the forest. This is a group of 60 Marines who are engaging my 10, now 9-man Recon squad. So it's time to get the hell out of here and try to land an airstrike on top of these guys. The deck I'm using, by the way, has no bombers. I only got one strike plane, and that is the, I believe it's the Peace Pheasant. So it's the one which has the AGGMs on it. And I was using that thing specifically to go after heavily armored tanks. But trying to bomb anything in a forest is difficult, especially if you don't know the extent of their air defenses. Now, unfortunately, my PIP wasn't attacked, but the seaplane that just flew over did engage the Patriot of my ally. I think it was Ray, who was holding over here. So we did lose a pretty vital part of our air defense. Now this PIP was not quite able to fire because of this mountain. They are looking up straight at it, and this is just a basic no-go shooting area for them. So I'm trying to push them up to about here, and over here they have a pretty much 360 area view of the sky. So keep in mind that terrain will also affect how far and how effective your AA can be. Some more infantry, still that Sappersies, which was bothering me earlier. One gets taken out by the KM900s, and another group of 4 KM900s is pushing up to engage these guys, because they only got the RPO Rice, same as the Spetsnaz. So I was very, very impressed with the performance of the KM900 transport over here. And keep in mind that these are only 10-point transports, but they're taking down 30-35 point Spetsnaz units. My Mistrals over here are of course horribly out of position, and I'm trying to get them to run away. But a Mistral runs at 15 kph, and Morskayas run at about 25 kph, I think. So that was not really going to work. Put down another marker, airstrike please. And someone did an airstrike, I'm not entirely sure who it was. And we also got mortar fire and artillery fire coming in. Let's see if we can actually hit anything with that. No, unfortunately they moved away, but not before taking down 2 of these groups. Again, this was a bombing run done by Tapioski. And with that, he also mentioned that he killed 2 groups. So that gave me a bit more information about what I was facing. And I know that it could only be 30 of those Morskayas at best. By now my team is leading by 2200 points. I'm still doing very nicely over here with 1800 points. And fighting in this forest, once you have a decent solid foothold here, is not that difficult. I was thinking before I began that it was going to be quite tricky. But once you have your units into position, once you have enough of them, and especially having these supply lines, makes it a lot more workable to actually go through this entire area. So I'm going to put the deck code down below in the description so you can have a look at the deck that I was using. Let me know what you think of the deck. Let me know what you think of the gameplay of so far, of course, as always. Trying to get the bomber out of the way, and in the end I think that the Patriots or the Tomcats got him, which saved us from another bomber in the future. Relocating my air defenses because they were firing from the same location for at least 2 or 3 missiles already. And another player surrenders, and that is GK Revolution, who I had a clash with the Commandosis over there. So he decided to quit. Pushing up through this forest again, and we can see that someone is returning a missile strike. This was getting quite annoying. This is the first missile strike that they do with 4 grads, and these things were constantly being a pain in my ass because they were trying to engage everything I had in here, and they were doing a pretty good job at it too, because they were just slightly damaging everything I had. That makes them a little less effective, it makes them panicked, it makes them stunned some of the time if they really take a solid hit from them. And everything is wounded slightly, so you got to keep in mind that your forces are never going to be 100% operating in here. You can see that the Haebyungs took a hit, maybe 2. KM900 slightly wounded. These Haebyungs were clearly not affected, but they have already been in a fight. KAFV 4050 out of fuel, also took a couple of hits. So I was having to repair everything and anything over here. Another group of 60 Morskayas makes it through. We're trying to push in. And again, my Recon infantry was not going to be sufficient. So this is something that I will still have to find a solution to. Because against larger groups of guys like this, which is infantry that has an excellent AT weapon, I still need to find a solution. I still need to find a vehicle which is going to be effective against larger groups, and of course I can just try to mortar them, but that might not always work or do enough damage to them. So if you have any idea what kind of unit would be most effective, maybe some SEALs might be interesting, but I was already using pretty much every infantry slot in this deck, and that means that I didn't really have a lot of options. By the way, the deck that you're looking at is a South Korean motorized, if I recall correctly. Actually, is that even possible? No, sorry, I got that confused with a different deck. You don't get a tank in a motorized deck. This is a South Korean general deck, but with pretty much everything geared towards high veterancy, so that they're going to be most effective in this 10v10 tactical. Let's skip it up a little bit. Got a very, very crippled group of Recon infantry moving back to my resupply. Over here I'm trying to push up with my Hellcats, but they are getting engaged, unfortunately. And I believe it was Morskayas over here. Yep, 25 Morskayas. They got another group of 20 over there who are being repaired or reinforced by this MTP LB, which is empty. They also got a large group of AA infantry spread out. Very good play there. And this makes it hard to take those guys down. So I'm trying to push in with my KAV 4050s, my M18s, my M900s. Taking out quite some infantry, but they're also taking out some of my vehicles. Let's switch it back because I'm not supposed to know what's out there. Again, same strike from the grads. So again, my forces are stunned. These guys with reinforcements and of course the launchers themselves have taken quite some hits. And everything in here just took a little bit of damage again. 20 Morskayas versus 3 Haebyungs, combined with 6 of their transports, and that is not going to be good news for these guys. Trying to get them under this ridge line, and they might just make it out. M18s are coming in. I was trying to get a couple of kills on those transports and I managed to kill one, which is a 5-point kill for a 10-point vehicle, so I suppose it's not bad. He just has to do that one more time. And I was also trying to kite those Morskayas to the side so that I could come in with my own forces afterwards. More 18s, KAFV 4050, and 4 of those transports. Hellcat was unfortunately not able to take down another target, so pushing in, and the KAFV 4050 gets taken out by the Morskayas. So the Hellcat performance here, the M18 Hellcat, was not as effective as I would hoped it would have been. So I still need to reconsider that part of my deck, see if I can make that any more effective. But for now, I'm still leading by points, 2,000. And that's exactly why I'm showing you this game, because it doesn't happen very often to me. I'm usually 2nd or 3rd or 5th if I have a bad game or I'm playing a support deck. So I was really very happy with the performance of this deck, because this was the first time I tested it, and I only had the replay of another player to go after and to see how he played his deck. One group of Morskayas, 2 groups of transports, and they're just trying to batter each other. Finally got the Morskayas out of the way. Mortars are also engaging. I'm not entirely sure where these Morskayas were being offloaded only now. If he would have offloaded those Morskayas earlier, especially if there's more Morskayas into those vehicles, this would have been a significant problem for me. Now with the last missile spam that they did on this area, they took out my Pip Hawk, unfortunately. Because that Pip was going to be vital for my anti-air. And by taking that out, I lost pretty much all of my anti-air capacity. Luckily they didn't know that, but I only had the 163 over here. And I got another Pip Hawk to come in right away, but of course it's going to take some time before they got there. Recon infantry engaging some concours and another group of infantry or vehicle. I'm not entirely sure what it was, but it was 25 points. So these guys, 25 pointers, took out 50 point value and did some recon run over here. My Pip Hawk is into position again, fired off 2 missiles, and combined with an ally took down that plane. Now this was getting interesting. There were some ships of ours over here, but apparently they were not going to be a main target anymore. Or these things were just flying over our lines, and let's see where they exactly are headed, because they are anti-ship planes, these Su-27Ks. I'm not sure why these things were going here, but they might have been used as standard air superiority fighters. They can more or less perform that role. The only thing that they cannot do is dogfight, but those 6 Vimpels are quite deadly. What they had not kept in mind was my AA, combined with some Tomcats, and we take down another 165 point plane. Now Carlos is backing him up with 2 Patriot batteries, which are almost going out of ammo, so those need to be resupplied. Unfortunately I had no time for that, but they're doing an excellent job here, combined with the Tomcats, which are flown by Tepiowski. Unfortunately he loses one. You can see there's quite a bit of air fighting going on, but mostly by anti-ship planes, which is interesting. So he's using these things in the normal role of an air superiority fighter, and he's paying the price for it as well. Another plane comes in, another Su-27PU. He dodged a missile from my Pip, but not a lot of the other missiles, and he goes down. So they was just gifting a lot of points to us there. I brought in 1 tow vehicle, 1 tow APC over here, and I brought it in to make sure that I could cover this area. My recons were going to spot for it, and I thought, well, if I bring it in here, yeah, Mi-24V, or the Mi-20, I'm not entirely sure which one took it out, but it's dead. So I'm trying to get my Pip into position where it can fire, but of course these things are very, very slow off-road, 35 kph, and there's no way that these things are going to be in time to make it so that these things die, unfortunately. Again, the 163 is not fast enough either. And it would have been very, very nice if I could take care of these tanks using that ATGM that I was just bringing in. But it turns out that I didn't really have to. The HOTS took care of the tanks. But you can see that there's a missile launch going on there. And that is still that Tunguska, which I hadn't taken out earlier. It's not using its main battery, but just the SAMs on it. So I'm trying to push in with my Sochung-Su's and my KAFV 4050s to try and find these guys. Because I want that 100-point vehicle. Another plane comes in, another Seria. He might be trying to snipe a vehicle, I don't know. Another air superiority fighter. You could have argued that having 2 pips over here would have been better, to make sure that I was having a little bit more air superiority coverage here. But I was not having... I didn't have a lot of points to do that. So otherwise I would have brought in another one of these 80-point platforms. But I just didn't have the points for it. And again, this is the 3rd time that my forces have taken MLRS spam. Let's see, who is managing these things? Mr. Blue Sky. Mr. Blue Sky only has 900 points at this stage. So, he might have just been spamming artillery. I'm not sure where his forces were. But, that artillery spam so far, I believe, has only taken out 1 Pip Hawk in 3 salvos. So he was not really effective. Now the game is coming to a close and they got 9,745 versus our 13,000 points. So it was just a matter of time of who could make these last couple of points. Or could we do that in the time required? Because we were running low on time. I'm pushing up aggressively with my 4050s and unfortunately they got taken down at short range by the BTRs. Keep in mind that these things do have 1 AP power. And that AP power becomes quite deadly at short range. So my vehicles were way too close. If I had kept them at a longer range, they would not have been as effective as they were. So I would have kept them at a longer range, but there was no way. Engaging another couple of Motor Strelkys over here. Panzer Grenadiers just got halved by this Ka-29. And he's just making a run for it, leaving me to my own devices, and of course that is not going to be a position where these things are going to last very long. So you could say that this was a bit of a cowardly move, getting these guys away from the fight. They could have stayed and we could have done a bit more damage, but on the other hand I understand his decision to get the forces out of there. Some very expensive choppers are coming in again, and my 28s. And a KA-52 is spotting for them. So I lose another group of Haebyungs over there. Another group of infantry gets taken down over here. So my AA is again lacking behind. I do have the PIP, which can fire at airplanes and helicopters alike, but not from over here. And I was just trying to get some of my forces to retreat into this safety of this 163, hoping that those helicopters would follow. Trying to return fire to the BTR. A second BTR pops up right away, and a third, and the Spetsnaz, and that's the end of these Sochung-Su's. Putting a marker down, Arty please. I need an Arty strike on this position. My own mortars are doing the job, but of course they cannot kill everything that's in here. My Haebyungs do some more damage. And we're slowly crawling towards that 15,000 point marker. Now this is something that was purely experimental. These are quad M2 Browning machine gun trucks. 10 points each. No armor, poor accuracy, decent rate of fire. And I thought, well, there's a lot of infantry in here. Let's just test these units out, because I've never used them in the, I think by now, 500 hours of Wargame that I played. Never used these guys. But over here they might have been effective. So you can see that they are especially slow.
They're not doing a lot of damage. They're only very slowly trimming through the infantry, and the infantry is having none of that. But Strelky took out another one of those trucks, so as far as I was concerned, this experiment failed pretty miserably. There was no way that these things were ever going to survive. So I was either using these things wrong, I should have used them at a longer range. Oh, hello. There goes another AA unit. I was either using them at too short a range, or they're just not suited to engage these types of targets. Over on the right they got a couple of ships coming in, some Janus, which are engaging Ray's Lafayette. Also the Chamseries are engaging the missiles fired by those, but this Lafayette was already pretty battered. And two Janus with 2 more in support was not going to be good news for those. But there was some rescue coming. Some sea busters over here. MLRS were LRM were moving into position. And I don't think that we're going to get these ships, because I don't think that in 700 points they have enough time to kill those. I finally spot the Tunguska again. My Recon, or my command infantry is over here, which is very, very dangerous. I realized that, but there was not a lot of tree line I could have used. So running the hell away. But they're not running fast enough, only 20 kph. And the Tunguska is probably going, oh, that's a nice snack, and it takes it out one shot. Putting an attack marker on a different position here. Haebyungs are pushing into them with Strelky. And engaging a Tunguska with infantry is very, very dangerous, but it can be done. I've got a plane spam coming in here, Su-27Ks and A5s. Now this is not the way you use anti-ship planes. You use anti-ship planes in a group where they fire at the same time. A way that you can do that is by sending all of your planes, if they come in from this way, to say over there. Then have them make the same turn once they're there. And then all of the planes will arrive exactly at the same time at that position, because the one is going to be veering off from here, from there, and making a turn. Then you engage the ship, and you plant all of these anti-ship missiles on target at exactly the same time. That's the way I play my anti-ship missiles. So you're always going to see me do a sort of veer-off motion with these planes. But this, while it's still quite deadly, especially combined with the Janus, is not the best way of anti-ship missiles. Because this one gets taken out by the Chamsu, the second one gets taken down, the A5s get taken down by the Eagles, or at least some of them do. This one's too stunned to fire, and only one missile hit the Lafayette. Now of course it's easy for me to say, but if I was commanding those planes, that Lafayette would not have been alive. I think I would have gotten it. Only, and there you go. I was going to say only 85 points left. So, I did 2360 points. In the end, that was not the maximum. Carlos did a bit more with his artillery. And I lost 1580 points. So I got still a decent markup. Could have done better. Should have made some different decisions here and there. But still, I hope that this gameplay showed you how effective a South Korean force can be if it's micromanaged well, especially in the forest, and how effective it can be if you're managing a deck or creating a deck specifically geared towards one situation. Still needs some work on this deck because those quad 50 cal trucks are not effective, so that's something I'm going to change. But otherwise, I think that the deck performed very, very well, and I hope that you liked watching this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. If you want more of my material and you haven't subscribed already, subscribe please. And if you have any tips, any feedback, any questions, let me know in the comments. I always look forward to hearing from you guys. So thanks for watching, and see you next video.